You move through moments, already ready to carry it. When something goes wrong, you feel the weight shift toward you. Not loudly, not suddenly. It settles in as if it belongs there. You do not push it away. You make space for it. When a room feels tense, you check yourself first. When someone is upset, you look inward. You scan your words, your tone, your timing. You assume there is something you missed, something you should have done differently. This happens before anyone says anything. You notice how quickly this happens. There is no argument inside you, no resistance. The blame lands, and you accept it. Quietly, without asking if it is yours to hold. It feels easier this way, cleaner, less disruptive. You carry it without changing your expression. You stay calm, you stay composed. You let others move on while you keep track of what went wrong. You replay the moment. You list the ways you could have prevented it. You do this silently. In conversations, you soften your words. You apologize early, sometimes before it is needed, sometimes before you are sure. It feels like a way to smooth the air, to keep things from escalating. You would rather absorb the fault than let it float between people. You are careful not to make it visible. You do not dramatize it. You do not demand acknowledgement. You hold it privately, like an object you tuck away. You tell yourself it is manageable. You tell yourself it is better this way. There is a familiarity to this posture. Stepping forward to take responsibility feels natural. Stepping back feels wrong. You know how to stand here. You know how to carry this without making noise. You notice how often you end up holding more than what was said, more than what was clear. You fill in gaps. You assume intent. You take on what is unclear so the situation can settle. You move on outwardly. The moment passes. Others relax. Inside, you remain with what you picked up. You do not ask if it was meant for you. You already have it. This is how you enter situations, alert, ready, quietly prepared to take the blame and keep things steady. You stay alert for moments when something feels off. A tone shifts, a pause stretches, a look lingers too long. You feel it before anything is said. Your attention turns inward. You start checking yourself. You assume there is something you missed. When a situation becomes uncomfortable, you move toward responsibility without being asked. You replay what you said. You replay what you did not say. You search for the point where it could have been different. This happens quickly. It feels automatic. You notice how often you take this position, in conversations, in shared spaces, in quiet misunderstandings that are never fully named. You are ready to absorb what feels wrong so it does not spread. You would rather hold it than let it stay unresolved between people. You apologize early, sometimes softly, sometimes only inside. You adjust your behavior without announcing it. You become more careful, more accommodating. You lower your impact so the situation can settle. This feels like contribution. It feels like keeping things steady. You repeat this even when no one points at you, even when the fault is unclear, even when the silence could belong to someone else. You fill the space with self-responsibility. It makes the moment easier to manage. Over time, this becomes familiar. You know how to do this well. You know how to take the weight without drawing attention. You know how to keep your face calm while you carry it. You do not ask for recognition. You do not need agreement. You just take it on. You notice how this pattern travels with you. It shows up in small exchanges, in plans that change, in moods you did not cause. You stay ready to take the blame quietly so things can move forward. There is a rhythm to it. Something goes wrong. You look inward. You accept the fault. You adjust. You continue. The moment passes on the surface. Inside, you keep a record. You do not experience this as punishment. You experience it as order. It gives structure to situations that feel unstable. It gives you a role you know how to hold. It allows the world around you to calm down, so you keep doing it. You take responsibility even when it is shared. You carry it even when it is unnamed. You do it quietly. You do it without complaint. It becomes the way you stay connected. You stay with this position even when it grows heavy. You take the blame before it is placed, sometimes before anything has happened at all. You sense the shift and you move inward. You collect what feels wrong and you hold it quietly. You do not ask whose it is. You assume it can rest with you. You notice how this affects the way you stand in the world. You remain careful. You remain attentive. You watch for signs that something might tip. A look, a pause, a change in tone. You stay ready to absorb the impact so it does not land elsewhere. This readiness never fully turns off. There is effort in this that rarely shows. You carry it in your body, in the way your shoulders stay slightly engaged, in the way your breath shortens when something feels unsettled. You do not maim this effort. You simply keep going. You are used to it being there. You replay moments long after they have passed. You revisit small exchanges. You examine what you said, what you did not say, what you could have done differently. You hold yourself to account even when no one else does. This feels like responsibility. It feels like order. It feels like keeping things from breaking. You notice how this costs you something. Time, ease, a sense of lightness. You move more carefully than you need to. You soften yourself before you are asked. You make room for others by taking up less space. You do this without resentment. You do it because it feels familiar. There are moments when the blame you carry does not belong to you. You sense this faintly. You feel it as a quiet tension. You do not push it away. You tell yourself it is simpler to keep holding it. Simpler to be the one who adjusts than to let things remain unclear. You are rarely angry outwardly. You turn that energy inward. You convert it into responsibility. You turn it into self-correction. This keeps the surface calm. It keeps things moving. It also keeps you busy inside. You do not dramatize this. You do not tell a story about it. You simply live with the weight. You make space for it alongside everything else. It becomes part of how you move through situations, part of how you stay connected, part of how you keep peace. There are times when you wonder what it would be like to not step forward, to let the fault sit where it falls. You do not follow this thought far. You return to what you know. You return to taking it in. You return to keeping things steady. You remain here, holding, adjusting, carrying. You let the tension stay unresolved. You do not release it. You do not explain it. You keep going with it beside you. You are still here with this habit. It is not shifted. It is not softened. It sits with you as you move through moments. When something goes wrong, your attention still turns inward. You still feel the pull to take it in and quiet the space around you. This way of being feels settled now. It does not rush you. It does not argue. It simply positions you where you know how to stand. You recognize the posture. You recognize the weight. You recognize how easily you step into it. There is a steadiness in this. You know how to carry responsibility without making noise. You know how to keep things smooth. You know how to hold what is uncomfortable so others do not have to stay with it. This has worked. It has kept moments from breaking apart. It has kept relationships moving. You can see how this made sense in the world you were moving through. Taking the blame quietly reduced friction. It kept things from escalating. It allowed you to stay connected without confrontation. It gave you a role that felt useful and clear. You do not need to judge this now. You do not need to praise it either. You are simply noticing how present it still is, how naturally it appears, how little effort it takes to step into it again. You continue to move this way, listening for tension, adjusting yourself, absorbing what feels wrong. The outside stays calm. Inside, you hold what was taken on. Nothing is being resolved here. Nothing is being undone. This way of being is not asked to leave. It is allowed to stand as it is, familiar, functional, quiet. You remain with it, aware of the posture, aware of the cost, aware of how it once fit. You do not move away from it. You do not move toward change. You simply let it be seen. And then you continue on, carrying what you carry, keeping things steady, letting this way of being remain where it has always been,